Hi, I'm Andrew Burke, and I've been a Toastmaster for over 6 years now. I recently did some talks on how to use multimedia and virtual presentations, and some of the other Toastmasters in my club asked me to record them again so they could have them for reference. So I'm doing that, and I'm putting them up on YouTube, so maybe it'll help other Toastmasters and other people out there presenting. So this is the second of those two videos. You can see the other one linked down below. Now note this entire presentation is live directly from Keynote without any extra post-production compositing or anything else like that. This is live directly like it would seem on a screen share during a Zoom talk. All right, so here we go. One of my favorite types of YouTube video are the ones where an expert on, say, music theory or astrophysics or AI explains their specialty in escalating levels from grade school to grad school. My last Toastmasters talk Pathways assignment was learn to use presentation software. And since I've been using things like PowerPoint and Keynote for years now already, I decided to take this opportunity to explore some of the newer multimedia and Zoom-friendly features these applications have nowadays. And so people asked me to share some of what I learned, so I'm now going to try to do that here, explain several ways to spice up your next Toastmasters talk with multimedia from simple to advanced. Now, level 1, sharing the screen. Now, you probably already know how to do this. Run your presentation, share your screen. If you got slides on it, there you go. And one thing that can improve this experience a lot is using a remote to change your slides. Presenting works better if you're standing a little bit back from the computer like I'm doing here. So going up and hitting the space bar all the time every time you need to change something is distracting. You can also buy a little wireless remote, or if you're in the Apple ecosystem, a little hidden feature that's changed my life is the Keynote app on your phone, which would be kind of pointless most of the time because it's so tiny, can turn into a remote for Keynote running on your computer. It'll even put your notes on the phone screen. You can't really see that there. It keeps. You can put your notes on the phone screen, and it'll even show you a preview of your next slide. Having your slides in one window and your performance in another is annoying. Arranging windows and pinning views on Zoom is always frustrating as a viewer, and unless I'm lucky, I'm often looking at the slides in full size, but the actual presenter is either a small image or I've completely lost them completely. So level 2 is how to get yourself into the picture. And one way you can do this, solve this, is by using Zoom's replacement background feature. This way, you're sharing the screen with your slides, so the slides aren't in a separate window, which confuses everybody. Early on, I did some talks with my slides as literally a bunch of background pictures. Now this gets awkward, unfortunately, as anytime you want to change that picture, you have to poke around on the image selection screen, and there's a delay while it loads it up and everything. It can really break your presenting flow. But if you have simple slide needs, 1 or 2 sections, and maybe it's just a bunch of bullet points that you're going to be referring to, it's great, and it's nice to have a different background that's actually appertaining to your talk. But Zoom has a better way. When you go to share your screen, switch over to the Advanced tab for a bunch of extra options. Now, I haven't explored all of these options so much, although that second camera and video seem worth exploring, but the big one that changed everything for me was slides as virtual background. So you can pick a PowerPoint or Keynote presentation, pick the files from your computer, and Zoom will load it up and run it for you in the background of your screen. This keeps everything on the one presenting screen. I like to call this meteorologist mode. I don't know, when I was a kid, I always thought the meteorologists had the coolest jobs ever. They talk about their fronts coming through and everything, and you point at the map, and especially when they started doing the compositing on TV. It really blew my mind. It seemed really awesome. And finally, we can all do that. We can do Zoom and talk about the weather. Now, this is cool, but it still has some drawbacks. The main thing is you have to design your slides carefully to leave space for yourself so you're not blocking important information. And that's just a design challenge, and you're going to have to deal with that one way or the other. But the other drawback is that Zoom runs the presentation, not Keynote or PowerPoint directly, but Zoom using its own sort of special reader. And their system is pretty basic for that. So if you're showing just static slides with some text and pictures, it's fine, but it's not going to have much luck trying to do fancier features like media, transitions, and special actions and things like that. So this brings us to number 3, become part of the presentation. Now this was a real game changer for me when I figured this out. Alongside text, images, audio, and video, and the like, Apple's Keynote now lets you add the live feed from your webcam as an element in your slides. It's a component just like any other. So you can make it any size you want, and you can put it anywhere on the slide. This solves a whole lot of problems with Zoom's meteorologist mode, since you now have a whole lot more control over placement, positioning, and everything else. So here you can see me putting it in one of my other talks. And of course, I'm using it right now for this presentation. You can also mask out your background, which is what I'm doing here. It mostly works. Sometimes if you move too much, you get a bit of a glimpse of it. But mask out the background, makes it very clear. You're just floating on top of your content, which is great. Now, I gather that PowerPoint has this too, but it might require a third-party plugin to use completely. But anyway, I'll leave that for PowerPoint people. I'm a Keynote person. It's been my secret weapon through my years of my career. Anyway, now that you're actually in the presentation, the best way to present is to turn off your camera in Zoom. Just turn off the camera, but keep the sound on, and then have everybody just watch the shared screen. So make sure you don't forget to add the video feed to every slide while you're setting that up, because it's really easy to forget and then you suddenly disappear in the middle of the talk. I also find it's useful to copy paste each slide, the video into each slide, because that way it keeps the size and the position. Because it's really jarring if you're suddenly bouncing around all the time on every slide. Feel free to move yourself around for particular effects, like this one where I'm inside the TV. But, generally you don't want to freak everyone out with bouncing all over the place unless that's a specific effect you're trying to do. But now that you're in the presentation and it's all being run by your presentation software directly, you can now use all the cool features that they've built in. So take some time to learn about transitions and things in your presentations. These that you add or remove or otherwise modify different elements on the slide. It can be as simple as showing items in a checklist sequentially, or you can do full animations. Keynote and PowerPoint have lots of wacky effects like anvil and bounce that have all sorts of things coming in. But I've always found, just like fonts and colors, a little variety goes a long way. Pick one or two things and just stick with them. And in fact, I tend to just have a simple fade in and out if I want to do things for the most part. Although I often enjoy putting one silly transition in per presentation. Every transition can have one wacky presentation. And here's this one's. Anyway, you can also add audio and video. And these days with modern computers, you can add full screen, high-res video. And it doesn't have controls or anything you can trigger with your little clicker. So once a video is in a presentation, you can use it multiple times or spread it across multiple slides and add other contents, overlay it. You can move it around, and you can even control the start and stop times. Like here, you can see it's a very short start and stop. That's because I only wanted to extract a tiny little moment from that. This is how I used it to do in my previous talk, this little stinger where it says why at the beginning of every section because it's sort of a question. Why? See, there we go. And that's the little clip. That's the 2 seconds or so, and you can just use it as a punctuation and things. So find your ways to mix and match video to make an impact and maybe some humor and context and things. Now, a few things to watch out for if you're adding video, and especially video and audio. When you're setting up sharing, you need to make sure that you check the share sound checkbox at the bottom. This will have Zoom mix your computer's audio in with the microphone audio in your presentation, which makes everything sound a whole lot cleaner. You don't want to be having your computer making sound and trying to pick it up on the same microphone. It just sounds tinny. Be careful, though, about playing audio while you're also trying to speak while Zoom is doing the sharing. Zoom will try to balance this out. There's no control panel to set the levels. It just tries to do it for you. It will drop the volume level of your voice while it's playing audio on top. So it's much better to let the audio play while you're not speaking and speak only when the audio is not playing. That way everything keeps the same levels, and often it's really impactful just to have silent video if you want to. So if you look at my other talk and some things in this talk as well, you can see where I've tried to balance that out by having silent video in some spots, but also just having me being quiet while video plays and vice versa. Also, another thing, full motion video like this can be a real resource hog. If you've got a full screen presentation with full screen video playing along with your own camera feed that's maybe being filtered, your computer, no matter how powerful it is going to sweat a little. Zoom is going to have trouble sending all that data, especially like flashing lights like this, to your audience as well. You'll get freeze-ups, low frame rates, or worst of all, I've discovered sometimes happens is your audio will get out of sync with the video because the streams are coming in different rates. And unless someone tells you, there's no way of knowing that this is happening, and it's going to be messing up your whole talk possibly through the course of your presentation, and it's a nightmare. The trick for this is to tell your presentation software to not take over the whole screen. Instead, just put the presentation into a window. And you can shrink that window down to a smallish size because it's going to be pretty small on Zoom anyway, and then tell Zoom just to share that window. This will make everything run much more smoothly because it's only sharing a much smaller part of the screen. There's not as much data to punch through. This has the added bonus of letting you keep your Zoom window visible so you can actually see your audience while presenting. And even in these days of virtual presentations, it's really great to be seeing everyone's faces, especially if you make a joke and you get some laughter. But still, it's nice to not be speaking just to a camera. It's always good to have audience feedback. So this is not only useful for your computer, it's also useful for you. So that's 4 levels of modern presenting with Zoom. Tools have evolved a lot over the last few years, and it's well worth playing with them and seeing what you can come up with. Play with it, have fun, try different stuff. You're now like a TV studio. You have tools at your disposal that full special effects departments wouldn't have been able to do 10, 20 years ago. So remember, you shouldn't just show a presentation. You should be the presentation. And take that to your next talk. Thanks very much.